You guys see?
And now I'm recording.
Can you guys see my screen?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, cool. Kind of boring stuff this week. I reworked kind of how plugins inject links into the top bar based on the structure of the Angular project, which is probably maybe not even interesting to Curtis, but if it is interesting to someone, it'd be him. The rest of you don't care. Profile has some tabs now. Password resets are good. Yeah, and it'll yell at you. Cool. Editing profiles good. And what was the other thing? Why is my name not updated?
Because you called yourself admin. Or you logged in as that? Yeah.
Yeah, I just changed my first name.
Oh, I see.
So there's a bug.
Did you click apply?
Yeah.
Maybe it's going off your username rather than your first name.
Yep, you're right. That's probably it. Search collections is same old. I'm sort of working on getting that collection plugin better integrated, Curtis, so that we can move forward. It's pretty basic requirement, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
Collections and taxa probably. So this stuff's all good to go. What I'm working on is injecting tabs into the profile so that we can get my collections right here.
Right.
And then we can actually have a collection management screen. I can change the names and do cool stuff like that. And I'm just running into like some Angular infrastructure weirdness with injecting views into the material design tab thing. Like right now, the code has no errors. It's all set up to inject the My Collections tab, but it's not showing up. So that's, you know, the stupid, boring stuff I'm working on, like I said.
Did you push all this to Git? To the
Yeah,
GitLab?
it's all in there.
Okay. Let me put.
Oh, wait, not all of it here.
Okay.
Yeah.
My other question is about, so if I switch from English to some other language, is that also set up now for the tabs? Cool. There it changed to Evan.
Oh, did it? Weird.
Yeah, no,
What's that all about?
It probably didn't refresh that tab bar, the change there.
Right, there's some observable in there that didn't update.
Yeah.
Which again, like, is some of the little things I've been working on, right?
Yeah.
Like better state management for the user and stuff like that, which is really boring and invisible, but essential.
Right.
And I sort of have to like pull myself away from stuff like that. Like, no, we need more features that we can show, not perfect, user profile stuff.
Cool.
You have in the My Profile stuff, will checklists go into there?
Yeah, exactly. So once we once we install the checklist plugin, it'll be a tab up here as well. That's kind of what we're going for. Like My Collections, My Checklists. Yeah, I don't know.
I think those are the main things.
Yeah.
Another question. You mentioned search collections or collections and taxa. And one of the things that would be really nice that's not present is you could search initially for is what people want are the taxon pages. And so when you say search taxa, I was wondering whether you meant taxon pages or this way it is right now, where you could choose which collections you search from and then search the taxa.
Right, exactly. And those are pages I developed before. I just haven't like installed them into the current version of the code I'm working on, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I'm just trying, when you say add taxa, what do you mean? Because there is this thing that big request is search taxon for taxon pages. So you would just put the name and you wouldn't put the collections.
Got it. Okay. Yeah. So maybe another link up here, search taxonomy. And then
Not taxonomy, taxon pages.
taxon pages. And
That's where you get the descriptions and the images together.
right. Okay, cool. So let's look
It's
at
not an ability that's there right now directly. You have to go through the Taxonomic Viewer.
just a sec. Okay. So let's look at, man, it won't let me click my browser tabs. Okay. So right now I have to go through this, right?
Yeah, and then you click on, you have to tell people, then you click on a name and then it'll get it for you.
Okay.
Or the other way is to go through the Taxonomic Viewer. Or what I did this morning was, because I'm working on this paper on Datura, created a checklist of Datura and then told them to click on the names. But it would really, I mean, it's one of the really nice features, and it distinguishes it from anything GBIF can do, I think. And I don't know about the other ones, but to see the pictures and the description and bring a map based on the collections database, the lat-longed collections.
Right. So something like this. I don't know any plants.
Pick the first one, which may not be those don't look like plant names, frankly.
Yeah, the taxon's my favorite because it's a nice mathematical tree, or should be.
Yeah.
So it's my favorite to work on.
Yeah, I don't think that's a plant name.
Oh,
One time I had the animals in there. So go down. Yeah. Oh, it is. Apparently it's a genus in the brassicas. It's a mustard. Try an alyssum. There might be something in there for alyssum. Yeah, well.
something.
There's a lot of stuff that's not in Open Herbarium yet.
Yeah.
So scan might be better.
Yeah, right. Because I know a little bit more about what I'm looking at.
Yeah.
My go-to. Those are the green ones, right, Neil?
Yep.
Yeah.
What kind of bug are they?
Bees.
Oh.
Knowledge I never thought I would have. But
Yeah.
Wait, so what are you guys doing?
we're just looking at like the existing features for searching taxonomy and seeing how we can move that over into the Symbiotic 2 UI.
Got it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I really didn't mean to make a whole lot of time. Just the point is that for a selling feature, I think to be able to search for the taxon pages would be a really good selling feature.
Yeah.
And I think we actually did have it as an example of the sort of thing that could be made easier in the proposal.
Right. So Curtis, my thing with the project right now is that API is really easy to develop. Right. The basic pages, the UI with templating, all that good stuff is easy to develop. But like the Angular services get kind of unwieldy kind of quickly. And I've been thinking about like maybe a centralized store service, right? For data or something. But that's kind of where I'm at. So like Mary, developing the visual pieces of these features that you want are fairly easy, fairly trivial to make it look good on a page. It's the glue behind that ties it all together. That is why I'm so slow.
Important. Absolutely essential.
Yeah.
Do you mean that?
As I say, I was really thinking of it in terms of convincing people that Symbiotic 2 will be something they really want to move to.
Yeah.
So.
What were you saying, Curtis?
Do you mean, so the central service for data, do you mean some kind of update service or?
So like within the code, right, you have all
Right.
these services. Like, for example, I have my user service
Right,
that manages the state of the current logged in user or
Okay.
lack thereof,
right,
right? And then for collections, I have, the managed state of all the categories in collections.
mhm,
And these are kind of like all over the place. Like when I want to go to profile and click on my collections, I'm then having to manage via the services users and collections at the same time. So like what I'm thinking of is like a central service that's basically like key value pairs, and you
Mhm.
can like put a key, like say,
mhm,
I don't know, I'm just like
right,
spitballing here, but
gotcha.
like you would put like,
The
okay,
name
I
of the
want my
plugin.
user state to be this,
Yeah.
and then you can retrieve it all from one place. But
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the key value pair would be basically be the name of the plugin, and then the value would be whatever the state was for that plugin.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, something like that.
Okay.
Kind of what I'm thinking, though we need more features. I'm aware of this, so I should think about architecture later, maybe. I don't know. What do you think?
What other features do we need?
Just anything we can show people to sell it, right? Like plugin development, basically.
So, so this is basically rather than having a bunch of services to maintain the state, one for each plugin, essentially.
Yeah.
You'd have one central service, and then you'd register. You basically each plugin would put to that service its state, and then get it as it needed.
Right.
Yeah.
But then you'd still have separate services for stateless operations, right? Like the API.
Yeah.
Like, right, hit the API, then take the result and put it into the store.
Right.
Like
yes. Yeah. That's fine to. I don't see a downside. So I mean, I think that seems reasonable.
Yeah.
The only issue would be if you got back a big result. I guess that's not part of your state, though. You just display that.
Right. You keep that part stateless so that you're not eating memory. Is that what you're thinking?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Right. I think before that sounds like a big sort of like rework possibly, though. So I think what I was also thinking would help manage the complexity of this Angular app, right? Because we've pushed all complexity into the front end.
Right.
It's a lot.
Yes.
Is the sort of like software engineering type stuff that we're kind of missing, like UML diagrams and
stuff. Yeah.
Like maybe I should take a couple days to work on docs for developers. For my brain. I don't know.
So the question here is, are developers going to go off of examples, or are they going to go off of UML?
That's a good point.
And so my feeling is, hey, if we have a tutorial to say, oh, do this, do this, do this, then and shows sort of an example of how to do everything you want to do, sort of, then developers are going to benefit more from that than from UML diagrams. That's I don't know how many biologists know UML.
Yeah, that totally good point.
Yeah.
I guess I was thinking more of like open source core development rather than plugin development, right? Like if we want to get collaborators in, less of a learning curve, but I guess we can't even get collaborators in right now anyway. So yeah, I don't know. I think I still might take a day or something to draw it all out.
Yeah, I'm not saying that's a bad idea. I think that's a good idea.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm just I don't know how well they'd be used by the sort of developer community that is the bio nerd herd type of developer.
But I think Evan was commenting about the different developer community and the community, and it would make sense to me that you might need two different approaches.
Yeah.
Probably another one for entomologists.
Because they're dumber. Yeah.
They're subspecies is what they are really of humanity. Yeah, I don't know. I'd say my view in general is sort of to get things going and then go back into document.
Yeah.
Because it may change, like this idea that you have now, oh, let's have a central service to clean things up. That would change. If you had UML diagrams for all your things, it would change. So I kind of feel like, oh, let's push the documentation off till we feel like it's set.
Okay.
Unless there's parts that you feel, oh, these parts are set, let me document these parts. That would be good. Does that make sense?
Yeah, okay.
Or is it for your own edification? Is that what you're
kind of
saying?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe just like plugin authentication and profile management, because those are all core pieces that'll hopefully never change, right?
Yeah.
But yeah,
I was going to say, so what do you use? What IDE are you using? Are you using WebStorm or?
Yeah, WebStorm.
Okay. And WebStorm, though, they have pretty good internal documentation on the objects and classes and things like that. And
yeah, just like hovering over really helps.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess I could do better code commenting. That's always good.
That would help. Yeah, so that's probably that's the low hanging fruit.
Okay, so how about before you even look at it, and I
Okay.
embarrass myself, let me do one more commit of check comments today.
Okay.
So that I don't look too
So
bad.
that you'll say you're fairly wonderful, amazing.
Okay, that's fine. That's good. And then we'll and the occurrence plugin will be in there, and the collections plugin as well.
Yeah, I just gotta copy some stuff still. So.
Okay, great.
Collections is there, but it's just like, oh, you can't see my screen anymore.
But it's not a source. It's not a core module. It's a plugin.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Yeah, because that's what I really I want to just see, and then I will do the Taxa plugin like the collections plugin, because that has enough stuff for me to look at that and see.
Yep. So right. So what was I gonna say? The plugin loading via the UI isn't there, but you just add a line to the plugin's core module.
Okay.
Should be fine. And they are just at this point they're just Angular libraries.
Right.
So you could even do ng generate library, and then you have your plugin.
Okay. Because it'll go through and read the code from the plugins directory.
Yeah, so and like angular.json says create all new libraries in the plugins directory.
Yeah. That sounds good. I don't know how I think doing static plugins it's fine. So I don't know if we need that ability to dynamically load plugins.
Yeah, I like that too, because it really adds a lot of extra work being able to do it from the GUI. Like we'd have to have some sort of like node module that restarts your app, you know what I mean? Like some weirdness, JavaScript controlling JavaScript type thing. Yeah.
Oh, I mean, I think it's going to be a thing that's infrequent, and so I mean, I just
that's a good point too.
Just you shut your server down, restart it, and you should be good to go.
Yeah. All right. I've got nothing else exciting to talk about. Neil and Mary, you guys got anything?
Well, so you're 2 weeks behind on the occurrences. Not bad. So it's now, so now you're saying that you can finish the occurrences by mid-December?
I don't know what you mean by finished.
I don't know what you mean by finished.
So we want like CSV, Darwin Core upload and download, and like all search capability. I guess that'd be all of it, right?
So let me look and see. So in occurrences, basically occurrences is a bunch of different plugins. So there's search plugin, which is I think what you're doing, Evan, right?
Yeah.
Okay, and then there is also, hold on. Just a second. I'm just looking at the old structure. Okay, so for occurrences, there's occurrence association, occurrence comment, occurrence data set, occurrence genetic, occurrence loan. So I think the Darwin core upload would be separate still. So it would depend upon the occurrences, but basically we want at some point the Darwin core upload. Now, I don't know what occurrence association does.
It sounds like it's one of the fields.
Yeah, but it's some user interface that does a certain thing. Occurrence comment. So basically you can go in there and comment on an occurrence record.
Right.
Occurrence association should be the, if there's a biotic association, let's say a flea on a mammal, the occurrence association is the URL or the catalog number for the cataloged mammal.
Yeah. So if
Okay,
exists,
so it's different in botany. We list the other species found at the same location.
yeah.
It's the link to the other organism that's in the association.
Yeah, it'll just be if.
That's other catalog number.
No, it's referencing the catalog number of the other organism.
No,
So if the organism is in this
of the
portal,
species, not of another occurrence though.
No, it's typically, like in scan, it's highly unlikely the other organism would be in this portal because it'd either be a vertebrate or a plant.
You see, well, that's what I'm saying is different. And just, that's all I'm trying to say is we're doing it differently because in plants, what we put down is we collected this associated species, the other species present were so-and-so. And
No, it is not associated species. It's referring to a specific specimen.
No, it isn't.
Well, it could be the case that it's used in two different ways in different communities.
right?
So we probably should go back to the Darwin core thing and find out.
Well, it is. If you look up Darwin core, that's what it should say.
Right, but you guys are just talking about fields, and we're talking about like a broader associations module, which would probably include management for each of those fields.
Right.
So,
Okay.
And then there's occurrence comment, where I guess you can go in and comment on occurrence records. Occurrence data set, maybe that's the Darwin core one. So
Sure.
dump out the occurrence records in different formats.
Yeah.
Occurrence genetic.
That
So
would be
I'm-
a link to GenBack.
Basically, what we do is we go in and look at the old symbiota and go through and try and figure out what these things mean. Occurrence loan. So this is basically, is this out on loan, right, Mary?
That's correct.
Yeah. And then occurrence search. And so I guess Neil's question is, what do we mean by occurrence? So what do we need? What's the basic? Basically, we want all those, but in sort of a first release, what do we need? We need occurrence search. We probably need occurrence data set, which I'm assuming is the Darwin core dump, Neil.
Yeah.
And the other ones are not as important.
Right.
Okay.
What do you see occurrence data set?
Say that again.
I'm not sure how I'd use occurrence data set. The only time I find it is on GBIF when I'm trying to look up and see how many records that institution has put in.
Yeah, but what I think what Neil is saying is that that includes the Darwin core. If our understanding is correct, that includes the Darwin core dump, and so people will want to say, oh yeah, by the way, Symbiote 2 can dump the Darwin core. That's a pretty essential feature.
Yeah, I'd argue that it's even like a core occurrence feature that should always be there. But
Okay. Yeah, it may be an occurrence. I don't know what
Yeah.
occurrence data set is.
Yeah.
But basically, whatever we mean by, so for occurrence records, the keys that we want are Darwin core, dump, and Darwin core upload as well.
yeah,
Darwin core upload, Darwin core download, import export from Darwin core,
right.
and occurrence search. And that's what we mean by finishing the occurrence module.
And I think right now, if it's okay with you, Curtis,
Yeah.
I might just make a singular occurrence plugin with those features and then split them out later.
That's fine.
Okay. Yeah.
Are you also going to have import and export from Symbiota in a current, well, whatever, somewhere along the line?
It already does that, right? So the migrations do that.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. So you use your existing database and then run 3 days worth of migrations, because I haven't been able to go back and try to make that more efficient. And then you have a Symbiote 2 database with all your old data.
So then Neil's question was December 15th. Does that sound like a good deadline for the occurrence plugin
Yeah,
with those two features?
we can keep that deadline since I'm late already.
Okay. Yeah, and then when I will say the Taxa plugin, I will also do December 15th. Looks like we have the basic collection plugin.
Kind of. Not editing of collections, but that's what today is dedicated to. So.
Okay, yeah, because we need, that also depends on the services, right? So where the state is, yeah. And then for collections, for edits, so now okay, so now it gets a little bit more complicated because we have to write API endpoints for all the puts, right? Or
patches, yeah.
Okay.
That's what I was thinking. Just like pull the whole state from the API, do your edits in the form, and then just patch the entire state back to the API.
Okay.
Just so it's as simple as possible.
That will work. The issue here, so now, so the issue here is when we do all the error checking, and basically we want to do that all at the front end, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And
I mean, there's basic type checking on the back end, but that's about it.
So right now, what Symbiota does, and it does a lot of this, is basically in the PHP code, it checks all the foreign key references in the PHP code.
Okay.
So it doesn't leave it to the database to check. Even though the foreign keys are there, it pre-checks them in the code, and that's to give better sort of user feedback.
Right. And
so we have to do basically all the checks on various fields, and make sure that he has a string and stuff like that. So there's two strategies here. One is to say, oh no, let's put all those constraints in the database, and then we'll do our push. And if it fails, we report some kind of error message back to the user.
Yeah.
And what Symbiota does instead is it says, no, let's do all the checks on all the types and everything, all the foreign keys, make sure the keys are okay, whatever kind of other checks we need to make before we do that push.
Right, because it's easier in a generic language rather than like a DSL like SQL.
I think the other issue here is feedback to the user. So basically, if you get the error out of the database, it's basically, oh, your transaction didn't work.
Right.
Like,
totally.
What do I do as a user? Your insert didn't work. It's hard to translate.
Yeah.
And so all that has to occur in the front end is what Ben and I talked about this, and we said, no, all that has to occur in the front end rather than the back end. Is that fair enough?
Yeah, totally.
Okay.
And the reason I said like type checking's there is just because it's one decorator on a field on the back end, so that's super easy. But like, yeah, that's just basic. 400 if you try to post a number to a string field.
Right.
So that's at least something that's really easy to implement. No logic that we have to manage. But yeah, then we can push everything else into the front end. That sounds good to me.
Okay.
But likely I'll develop it, get it working, and then go back and
fix
do
it
all
up.
the validation.
Okay. Yeah, and I don't have a good idea on how to, because a lot of the validation will be.
So give me an example. How could I screw it up with the foreign keys?
So the foreign keys. So basically, if I'm inserting a new occurrence record and I put in some kind of tax ID and there's no corresponding taxa.
Okay. Right.
Yeah.
So just basic.
Yeah. Or if I put in some, I don't know, checklist should be some kind of drop-down menu of checklists. Collections.
Yeah.
So the collection ID should come from some kind of drop-down menu of collections, I would guess.
Yeah, just that tree.
Yeah, or else maybe you fill out the field. It's a completion type thing. So you start to type, auto-complete it. Maybe with taxa, it would be the same. So if I'm putting in a taxa, I'm starting to type the name and it would auto-complete. That would make the most sense.
Yeah, that's how it does it now.
Okay. Okay, so then it does that. because it's
But
pulling
we
those
still have a
names.
bunch of garbage. My wife was working with a data set this week that's just trash, and I almost want like, this taxa does not exist. You can't upload anything.
Well,
Right.
so
You,
no,
you
but
have to use an approved taxa.
Yeah.
no, but this is important because most places tell students or techs to do verbatim transcription. And so if it's wrong on the label, some people actually have them do that and then it gets corrected. But
Well, then I'll do a
you're-
little pop-up that says, put this in verbatim scientific name where it belongs, please. And then put the correct one in sign name, because
I wouldn't do it.
No.
I'd correct. So often it's something stupid.
yeah.
And they'll pick it up. But
So with Neil, what should we do? Should we allow it or?
Actually, no, I'm with Mary. I would say if they screwed it up on the label,
Correct
the
it.
only reason to allow it is if there is a valid species that for some reason is not in the database.
Right,
And
and then
you have the
you can
capacity to,
sometimes do that. You get a warning that says this is not in the database. This may be okay if you're going to publish it. You know, it's got some sort of wording.
yeah, so how I envisioned it was, this doesn't exist in the database. Do you want to add a taxa, yes or no? You say yes, you get a pop-up where you can fill out a new form for the new taxon. Then it'll add it, then you can use it.
And then the other time you pick it up though is when you do a data cleaning, because if you've done Excel spreadsheet upload, you get this. You've got to do the data cleaning, and it will tell you this is not in the this, and you can see whether it's because you haven't got the name in the first place, or they've goofed on a spelling.
well, so the more I think the other issue is you're putting in a valid name that is no longer accepted.
Oh,
And
sure.
if that,
Oh, that's a synonymy thing.
yeah,
Right, and then
and
it should just point you to the right one, right?
Yeah.
right. So when you're saying Paige is cleaning all this stuff up, it's because we don't have all of the legacy names in, in the table.
And I feel like it just requires a curator with a data set of this size, but it's just not tenable. And Curtis, that was actually when I started experimenting with Elasticsearch. I just built an engine of all the correct scientific names, and then I would take whatever field she had or whatever string she had and just take the one with the highest score from Elasticsearch, and like that way it kind of helped clean up her data, you know, like, because if an I and an E are transposed, Elasticsearch will score that, you know, high enough that it'll correct it.
Okay.
So that was kind of cool, but that was just sidebar.
And it's the data entry person who, you know, if you get them getting the feedback, that's where you'd like to stop it.
Yeah.
So when they're using the direct entry, that's where it does get stopped.
Yeah.
But one of the problems is getting the synonymy set up.
Yeah, and so it's tough. You really don't want somebody putting in a name that's just misspelled. But yeah, like in insects, at least, there's all these gender problems.
Yeah.
Where they've ended in male or female, and you know, it takes a month to find out who really knows. It's just ridiculous.
Yeah, what a nightmare.
Well, actually, and I think the zoological code is more flexible. The botanical code is rather rigid, which is.
Well, I wish it was more rigid, because it's for some of these names, it's ridiculous. In fact, I'm pretty sure that's probably the biggest problem Paige is running into, is having people put down male and female versions of the same name. And
Well, first it was, I'm just going to throw the family in parentheses at the beginning of the scientific name. Like, no, you can't be doing that, because it screws everything up. So I had to write regular expressions to remove everything inside parentheses from every single one of her 2.8 million records. It's just ridiculous.
I also remove authors because I find so often that's where the error is.
That too. Yeah, exactly. So, and also at the end of the scientific name, if there's a word, a comma, and 4 numbers, get rid of that too. So just like these ridiculous roundabout ways of cleaning up these names. But
Yeah, we don't do those in botany.
Yeah.
But I noticed that some journals now add them.
Yeah, it's annoying.
But they're all on another database, which is managed just for names.
Mm.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Sorry.
that sounds good. I was just going to say the complicating factor here is there's this issue of the taxa authority, right, Mary? And so I could switch those. And so it could be the case that the student is entering a name under a different. So basically, they're entering a name that this other taxa recognizes, this other taxa authority recognizes, a taxon that this other taxa authority has, but this one doesn't. But they're entering, in some sense, in the scope of the old one.
Yes, but that's far less of a problem than if you reject it on the basis of the spelling of the author names. I mean, and very often, sometimes it's the book that they're going from. I mean, all they do is use, Flora of Karachi.
Yeah.
Published 1948, and they copy the authors from that. And sometimes it's just that somebody has now found that the name was published earlier, actually by somebody or other else, same taxon,
Right.
earlier name, and that's the level at which I do sort of check slightly if I've got those. But
so those we won't have to worry about that, right? That's what you're saying? It's okay if we don't. Yeah. So basically,
I think there's no point asking a student data entry person to verify that the authorship is correct.
Yeah.
And it's up to our job to sort of try and clean these things up. And
I think it's as simple as
20 years ago, it's so much better than it used to be.
I think it's as simple as putting the authorship field immediately below the scientific name field so that no one, it's like implied that you put the authorship down there, not in the scientific name field. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Yeah, well, a separate field, yeah.
Yeah, but like right next to each other. So you see that, oh, okay, there's the authorship field. I should enter it in scientific.
I'm more apt to use spreadsheets. Oh,
right.
Well, and yes, and then there's the question of whether you put the author of the species name in when you've got an input-specific taxon.
Yeah.
To me, it's just the important thing is to keep authorship and name separate.
Yeah, and this is why, Curtis, I was saying that upload down or import export should be part of the core, because like Mary just said, they never enter one by one. It's always a CSV or a spreadsheet of some sort that they upload,
Well,
here
we enter one by one.
What'd you say?
Here, because we've got a good, reliable internet and it's fast, the students enter things in the database one by one. In Pakistan, they use a spreadsheet.
But for Scan, Neil, it's much more common to upload a CSV or Darwin Core, right?
No, it's probably not more common. You just notice it more because it's an active process that usually involves us. But all these other collections that are doing it one by one, like Mary said, they just work in the background, so you never really notice them.
Okay, so it's just my perception.
But there's definitely enough of them to do it.
Yeah.
But once we get the Docker version and people will have their local one, everybody will be doing the perfect thing in the database, except when they've got a new name that hasn't been picked up by anybody yet.
Right, and that's the problem. And that's where you should get like a taxon pop-up, probably saying, fill out all this information to add a taxon.
Yeah, and you're going to need that pop-up.
Yeah.
Because I don't download, I mean, I don't know what you use for the entomology one, but I really didn't like what ITIS was doing with stuff. I also dislike being told that they will change the names for me automatically, because we never change the name on a record. We may change synonymy, but we won't change the name on the record.
That makes sense.
I just want the pop-up to be a little video of Mary saying, "Do you really know what you're doing?"
So
like, I feel like even that pop-up's a good deterrent, right? Because if you just spelled something wrong and you get a pop-up saying add this as a new taxon, they're gonna be like, oh no, this already exists, I don't want to do this, X out the form and do it right. So
well, I think the video would be great, because the tech would turn to their professor and say, she had a British accent. It really scared me.
yeah, it gives her authority for sure. Yeah.
Or sometimes it might be appropriate to say, ask the collections manager.
Right.
Yeah.
Because you know, we don't allow all our students to do
So,
that.
but in all of this stuff, it's, you know, taxonomy is still a huge bugaboo. And I don't, I can help you, but until I think I see the final product, I can't, it's only then that I'll be able to say, oh crap, we should have done this, or you should have done that, or both. But it's a tough situation because if, for example, we had a really good taxonomic service that always provided the most up-to-date names accepted in synonyms, this would not be a problem, but it's not there yet.
Well, I mean, the problem is so many, you've got Catalog of Life, says it's going to do it. My frustration with that is there are things it doesn't include, and it doesn't give authors for any name above the level of species. And then there's the integrated taxonomic information system, which apparently I mean, one person here said he sent names in 3 years in a row, and then he finally said, "What the hell with it?"
Yeah.
He wouldn't have said that. He was a woman.
Yeah.
But they try. It's just.
Yeah, but it's still probably years away from having a consensus centralized service. And until then, it almost doesn't matter what you do. There's going to be problems. And if you ever want to actually use any of the data for research, you will have to clean.
Yeah, so
Adjust it.
so my takeaway from this is basically for the taxa, we want it to be as flexible as possible, is what Neil's saying. And so at the back end, accommodate all possible solutions. And then let's separate the Darwin core from the occurrence. So occurrence right now will just be occurrence search, Evan, and then make a separate Darwin core plugin. And the reason why is that Darwin core plugin may depend upon other plugins. So Darwin core right now is, you know, focused really on occurrence, but they could expand in future to doing other stuff at GBIF. So they could include more and more fields that we're pulling from more and more plugins. So that's why I would think that Darwin core is its own import-export plugin. Now, what Mary was talking about was a taxa upload plugin, because that's what she was saying for the CSV file is really for the taxa. And so I will do that one as a separate plugin in the taxa. So there'll be taxa as the main plugin, and then taxa upload or taxa import export as a plugin as well.
Cool. Nest.js makes file uploads really easy with decorators. There's also really good, if you get to it before me, there's a really good CSV parser node module just called CSV-parser.
Okay.
Pretty great.
It can be really difficult if you upload bunches of taxa once you've got an existing taxonomy, because I guess if you're doing the upload of taxa and you include your authors, then you're going to get multiple versions of a name because the author has been cited differently. Remember, I've asked you that various times. I had to ask you to deduplicate names.
Right.
And it's a pain to do it. So when I'm talking about uploading with a CSV file, it's uploading occurrence records.
Yeah.
And when they go in, I then run the data cleaning tools in Symbiota. Or actually, it won't. Yeah, I'll upload them all. Then I run the data cleaning to find the names that it can't find.
Right.
And add those names. Well, add those names if I can figure out what they are.
So, Mary, when you upload the occurrence records, is this in a different format than Darwin core?
Oh, yes. It's
Okay.
a spreadsheet. It's an Excel spreadsheet.
Yeah, CSV usually.
Well, CSV, so Darwin core CSV too. So, I mean, I'm saying are the fields different?
Right. You can use the Darwin core fields in your CSV.
Yeah.
And when you upload as part of the process, it does a schema matching. And so if you use Darwin core field names, it automatically matches them and simply alerts you to the non-Darwin core fields in the uploading CSV.
Yeah. So it sounds like.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, sounds like we need a occurrence upload as well. Occurrence import export, separate from Darwin core.
Right, for CSV stuff.
Well, Darwin core doesn't have things like substrate, I don't think. By the way, I just checked it. I was
Yeah.
wrong names for association and associated tax, so I was confusing. So, but that's why I was asking about a Darwin core and a Symbiota download and import.
Right, because it'll either try to match the Darwin core name or use the Symbiota native name, because sometimes they're not the same.
Right.
Yeah. Which it sucks. But
Well, yes, but the trouble is Darwin core is what everybody would agree to, and a lot of people said, well, we don't need a substrate.
yeah,
And yet, if you're collecting subgroups, it's really critical.
yeah,
I mean, we could put in a migration to unify them, but
that's what I was thinking.
You can do it the one way, but it's harder the other way.
But yeah, right. But Curtis, I tried to do it at the API layer, sort of.
Yeah.
And renamed all those fields.
Rename all. Yeah.
Hopefully it's more readable that way.
And when I do the occurrence uploads, by the way, the reason I don't always use the Darwin core terms is I try to come up with something that people are going to understand more easily.
Right. That's exactly what I'm talking about with the code.
Yeah, that's what.
It's got to be human readable.
Mary, actually, substrate is supposedly in Symbiota.
It's in Symbiota, but I don't think it's in Darwin core. I think it gets put into Habitat.
Okay. Yep, I can see that.
That's why I was saying both versions. And when we were talking, I think I was talking with Curtis years ago about importing from Symbiota, I said, you want to import the Symbiota fields, don't you? Not the, so, because that way you get the richness of the data.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say you don't want to throw any data away, but that's not the GBIF position.
Right. And so it is still true that we will be able to use essentially all 300 Darwin core fields with S2. Because right now, when I upload people's stuff, like reference, is there a Darwin core term that's currently covers references?
References for what?
Well, there is. It does it like if the specimen is associated with the publication.
Oh, well, it would be nice to have that. Really?
Well, it shows in here that it's part of current Symbiota, but it didn't show up in my drop-down list. But
I think one of the other things you might look at is when was it added to the Darwin core? Because Darwin core is not now, it's not the same thing it was in 2000.
Right. All I want is when I upload a CSV or a IPT, whatever, and it does the schema matching, that ideally we have all of the Darwin core fields available, and we get rid of any fields that truly have no function. Like there's 15 temporary ID fields that I've tried checking them and they don't even work. Like if you try to associate a variable with
it's because Ben put those in there for convenience while he does a bunch of data cleaning. So it's only for the developer and not for you. So that's why it doesn't work.
Yeah, and
I'll take the idiot's version then, please.
Well, and it's fine to leave those in there, but what I find frustrating is it's almost there. I can't think of any upload I've done where there've been a complete matching. So everybody that provides data that way, we leave off at least one field because there is no matching name that really works.
Could we have a sort of a Darwin core almost field that says everything else?
Well, the Symbiota uses about 90 of the fields. If we used all 300 or had the capacity, that would pretty much eliminate everything. And then the only thing it really leaves it would be Darwin Core extension terms, like for genetics. And I don't know the degree to which those can be incorporated. But I'm assuming with the way S2 is organized, that it is no longer a problem to add fields. You can still run into this problem of field pollution.
Mhm.
You have so many damn fields that you might have 4 or 5 data providers using 4 or 5 different fields, all for something that's the same thing.
Mhm.
And that's not good.
Yeah. So that's when we come back to like what I thought would be like a key value pair table, Curtis, for extra fields. And then to prevent that sort of pollution, we could even constrain the amount per collection, right? Your collection has 10 custom fields. You have to delete one if you want to add a new one, you know.
Yeah.
Could you add consonant?
Continent?
Yeah, to the administrative areas. Because if you look for all, if you try to do a search for things in Africa, you can't do it right now.
Huh, interesting. Yeah, we can make that
I mean, the
happen.
problem would be that a lot of people haven't been putting it on. But if you look, what was it? I did a search one time and I was puzzled. And then I realized that France has departments overseas. And so they all come in under France.
Oh, weird. Yeah.
There's one of them, by the way, Saint-Pierre and Miquelon in the St. Lawrence Estuary, 2 islands.
So you'd have like country France, but continent Africa type thing?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, got it.
I mean, most of the time, people will be wondering why, but that's why it would be.
And we'll just tell them it's because of the colonialists, right?
Yeah, like Guam.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, nice. All right. That's good.
But
I was thinking that we need another little video of Mary popping up and saying, "It's the colonies."
plant geography, somebody referred to the islands north of Canada. I got up and I stood up and I made a big screechy. I never made that mistake again.
Yeah, so
if we're gonna do that, then we need a video of Mary popping up when somebody forgets to put a negative on the longitude and say, "You just put that occurrence in China."
Yeah, we've had those for sure.
Yeah, we had a lot. But we also had some Chinese specimens, so we couldn't automatically do it.
Yeah, that's the annoying part.
But,
okay, so anyway, so then December 15th, why don't we then have the next meeting in 2 weeks, and then that'll be our last meeting of 2020, and then we'll come back in January and hopefully be close to
something.
Something.
Yeah. So and then for the December 18th meeting, it'd be so we want occurrence. We want occurrence. The occurrence loader, occurrence import export, occurrence search and occurrence import export, basically. Because I want to separate just the occurrence from the Darwin core, and we'll come back to the Darwin core later. Mm-hmm. And then taxa, and then I'll do the taxa.
Yeah, my instinct is to just, for simplicity's sake, keep them at all as core, put all the features in core, and then split them out as needed.
Okay.
You know, so like we could even begin with an occurrence module, a taxa module, and a collections module, and that's it. Yeah. Right, with all the features in each, and then say, oh, but we need to use this and that. Let's split this one out.
Yeah,
but I mean, whatever.
My view is, I mean, there's really no reason to turn off modules, right?
Yeah, sure.
So, in some sense, that could all be in there. It's only when there's situations where somebody comes up with a better taxa module.
Yeah, I'm just worried about UI stuff, right? Like, how do you inject links everywhere and anywhere, you know, from one plugin to another? Like, I was thinking in occurrences, it'd be cool to
pop up
have the collection listed or the taxa listed, and then you click a link and you get to it.
Yeah.
And so that's why
I agree.
just, too much modularity makes things less than cohesive is kind of what I was thinking.
But you have dependencies among them. So the collections module could depend upon the taxon module and just, it would have to have that root defined. But the question is, how does the collections or how does the occurrence module know what that path is what you're saying?
Yeah, kind of.
What that root is.
Or am I just defining a dependency just because, and then I hard code links?
Yeah.
Something like that. I don't know.
But hard coding links violates the plugin is independent, is module, it's its own self-contained module.
Right. Unless you, that's what I'm saying, like make it depend on collections and then hard code a collections link. Like those two are disparate, but they imply the same thing. You know what does that make sense?
Yeah.
It's weird though, right? Yeah.
I don't know what the answer is.
Yeah. Anyway.
So for now, we can move the code around later. So for now, we'll just assume that they're both in there, right? That they're sort of part of a core.
Yeah, if I have to hard code a link now, I'll put it to do in the comments and make sure I go, but
Okay.
Okay, so I brought up the checklist. If we could just go through this real quickly. So crowdsource and Exicati are still low priorities. The checklist, that's on your list, Curtis, to do?
Yeah.
Okay. And then also the glossary and the image processor.
Mm-hmm.
And well, I'll just keep going. The key in the media, and I don't even know what those do. And so Evan is going to do, and so, yeah, when we say finish up with occurrences, I'm assuming these, except for loan, I don't think loan is critical.
Mary does.
It's really useful.
Well, it might be useful. Everything is useful, but in terms of getting stuff up and running.
Yeah, Neil, it's also easy though. So
okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
No, I mean, when we discovered that Ed had put that in, it was sort of like, oh, wonderful.
Yeah, but genetic, I don't know what the heck's going to happen there.
Well, then we can hold off on that. And then we should touch base with Bold, at least in January, to see where they're at.
Well, also more broadly, though, because Bold is so restricted in which genes they look at and how useful they are, of course. So that's the complication I see with the genetic data.
Yeah. Reference. Yeah, once again, I don't see that being high priority. Okay, so Ben did these four, or maybe now I would say, Evan, you've converted all of those.
So auth plugin shared is just gone. Or no, I guess it's called common.
Common?
COMMON, common. UI common. And that's where most of your basic imports will come from, Curtis, most likely, is Symbiota 2/UI common is the package. And it has like the API thing in there, user stuff. It's like the core stuff that's shared among plugins. Does that make sense?
Right.
Yeah, okay. Auth is just part of the core because it needs to be. So that doesn't exist anymore.
Wait. So auth, plugin, and shared have all been converted to common.
Plugin, you can put core instead of common. And same with plugin loader. And then what do we got? Spatial I haven't copied over yet. No, that's Curtis working on spatial.
I haven't done anything with spatial, so I don't know why I have partial either.
Because there was a page that
Said
Ben had put up, I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
So I can.
I'm going to put a question mark here.
Okay.
So,
Do we need
because-
it, basically? Yeah.
because I guess what I see is when you're done with occurrences, Evan,
then we can move on to that.
regardless of where we're at, who's ever caught up, I would say this needs to be the next one. And then Curtis, you are doing taxa,
Yeah,
right?
taxa, yeah. Yeah, and then for spatial, the question we went back to was Elasticsearch versus in the database.
Yeah, I think we need to get there
Spatial
first
search,
and
yeah.
be able to like post a polygon and see how it performs, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm gonna say that the Elasticsearch one is probably gonna be faster, and it's gonna do a search, so it's gonna do a better job of search than the database query, but it may not be what people want from, they may want the database query.
Right.
So that Symbiota spatial is basically inside the database doing a geographic search, doing a geographic query is what it really is.
Yeah, and that so yeah. And to make that pluggable, that'll be another, if we decide on that, it'll be like Symbiota ES or something.
Yeah, and then I mean, then you get into all the issues of the spatial could become much, I mean, it's basically an open-ended thing because people then want to do layers and all kinds of other stuff, because then you're sort of getting into a GIS type situation.
Yeah, download that yourself, people.
Yeah, there's all other kinds of products that can
we
do that.
decided that was going to be the interaction, but the time that it's useful here is when people want to be able to find out which species were in this area.
Right, just to search. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, but then the question is, oh, is that better done in Symbiota, or is that like a current search? Is that better done in Elasticsearch? And
Right.
you know,
But that's you, because you said Elasticsearch.
oh,
And then we lose you, yeah. Neil, can you share the spreadsheet so I can edit it with name? Like for plugins, I want to make it the actual
Common,
node package
yeah.
name.
Oh, well, this is in the Dropbox folder
Okay.
that you have access to. I'll send you the pathway. Is that okay?
Yep.
Okay, yeah, and so my guess is we'll have to have a dedicated meeting to talk about spatial, probably in January, and that will be probably the biggest thing left to do after all these other things are done, right?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Just in the, yeah, I was looking for all the low priority items.
And I'll email Will and ask him about an update on either him or Austin being able to move their phylogeny along
Cool.
and phenology.
Was there something on the Symbiota group recently about an R package on phylogeny that somebody was using? Something came across my desk and I was busy with something else, so I didn't save it, apparently.
I didn't see that one.
Yeah, you think I'm bad with my normal email, the Symbiota Google group? It just goes to a folder and I never look. So.
Yeah. No, somebody said something about they developed this thing that was specifically for working with Symbiota, and it was sort of distribution of, I think it was phylogeny of hot deserts, maybe. I'll see if I can find it in my emails.
Yeah.
I looked this morning. If I can, I will find it and I'll share it with you guys, and then there will be 4 people that know about it. Or 5 rather.
Okay.
Okay, that sounds good. So we'll plan on not meeting next Friday. Unless Evan, you and Curtis need to talk about stuff, this slot is open.
Oh,
Okay.
well, yeah, I'll keep in touch, Curtis.
Okay, sounds good.
And then we'll plan on meeting the Friday after that.
Okay.
Sounds great.
Okay, I'm gonna stop share, and I'm going to